l'émission Rencontres est rendue possible grâce à la participation de Décor RT, créateur d'ambiance.
Bonjour et bienvenue à une émission spéciale. Spéciale parce que ça se fera en anglais. La communauté anglophone est très impliquée dans la région et le développement de la région. Et mon invité est anglophone. Alors, je remercie TV CRA et Nous TV pour me donner la permission de faire cette émission en anglais. Ça va être très intéressant pour tout le monde, surtout les femmes. Et pour ceux et celles qui suivent des cours d'anglais, mais c'est votre occasion de pratiquer votre compréhension auditive. Mon invité, Johanna Visser. Ses passions et son intérêt dans les femmes, les ressources pour les femmes seront les thèmes qu'on va toucher aujourd'hui. Hi, Johanna.
Hi, Therese.
Thanks for being here.
Very happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
This is a first. The names Jack and Aline Visser, your parents, are very well known in both communities, English and French.
Yeah.
Aline still today is very, very active. You told me once that they were magnets who worked with people in both communities. Explain what you meant by magnets and also the influence that they had on you.
I'll say that they were magnets in terms of they did attract people, but they also invited people. So as teachers, our table was always filled with fellow teachers from around the world. It was also, you know, people came to them, came to the house. In fact, returning students often came to visit them.
Really?
So there was just always, the house and the dinner table was always a place that drew people in, that my parents always opened their doors to, and people came.
And had this exchange.
And had this exchange, yes, from... Yeah.
And for you, obviously, they were your parents, but what did you inherit? What did they give you?
It's that love of gathering people, of feeding people, of supporting people. And also, too, there's this love of nature and the natural world. My parents are gardeners, and so there's that love of gathering people, but there's the love of cultivating not just people, but plants and animals, and so the natural world is very important.
You told me once, I found it very interesting, that your mom she had this sentence, and she always said, Joe, be your own woman. Obviously, with time, that took on a different, bigger importance, but be your own woman.
Yeah, that was big growing up. That was a message that she and her sisters received from their mother. Be your own woman. And so I always got that message from my mother, which meant be independent. You know, don't rely on anybody for your financial well-being, for your physical well-being, but most of all, don't rely on anybody for your own happiness.
That I don't think is stressed enough. You know, too often it's to be in a couple, but we have everything we need within us.
Within us.
And that has to be stressed more and more, I think, to young women. Yeah. You said at a very young age, you went to see an exhibition of Judy Chicago, a feminist and, you know, women's right artist also. That had an impact on you, but at such a young age.
It did. It was, I think it was about 1979. My mom and I were in San Francisco visiting relatives, and this exhibit called The Dinner Party was being launched, basically. And so we had tickets for it. And
oh my gosh.
yeah, and we were there with like hundreds and hundreds of other women waiting to get into this exhibit, because it was mostly women who went to see it, some men as well, of course. But when we got into the exhibition room, it was this huge installation piece. And it was this, like a huge triangular table. There were 3 sides that made this huge triangle.
Okay.
On this raised platform, this raised iridescent tile platform with the names of 999 women written in gold on these tiles.
Oh, my heavens.
And when you started the exhibit, you'd make your way around the table, starting at the top point. And what she had done is she had designed 39 dinner plates and place settings with embroidered tapestries for the women in Western history, starting with a primordial goddess, making her way all the way around to, of course, it's the late 70s, to George O'Keeffe, who was a really famous American artist. And so it was an homage to these women. And I remember looking at these plates, these floral designs, which became 3-dimensional as you got closer and closer to present day. They became very, very 3-dimensional. And the plates represented each woman, their history, and the place settings was also the context. Okay. And I remember being moved by these women. There was Queen Elizabeth I, there were different goddesses, there were different artists and writers. And I remember just the impact of this and going, this is also my story. And I remember at a very young age going, I'm a feminist.
That right then and there, you realized that was within you.
Yes, because it also represented their hardship, too, of these women.
You did your studies in English, Andrew Johnson High School, but then you went on to Cégep, and you studied in nursing.
Oui, technique infirmière, right here.
I don't think you were saying it's not necessarily because you wanted to be a nurse. Your idea, your goal, plan match was?
Midwifery. I was going to be a midwife. And the history of that has to do a little bit with one of the dinner settings at Judy Chicago's dinner party. It was a place setting for Mary Wollstonecraft, who was the mother of Mary Shelley, who wrote Frankenstein. And there's this very, very vivid embroidery image of Mary Wollstonecraft, who died in childbirth, giving birth to Mary Shelley. And this impact of this woman dying in childbirth really impacted me. So that was like, I want to do something. And the fact that in 1967, when I was born, I was a cesarean section.
Oh, really?
Yes. So there's that women's health, their reproductive health really kicked in.
When you studied, midwives weren't allowed to practice in Quebec.
That's right.
So you had to kind of find another path. Yeah. Which afterwards you went to study, I suppose, and other at Concordia, Bishops, etc.
I went to Bishops University. So the plan was to go to Concordia. They didn't have the community health nursing program that I wanted to get into. So I went from Montreal to the Eastern Townships, to small town Lennoxville, where my parents actually had gone to university. And I ended up doing a BA in English literature at Bishops University.
I know that was not at all your goal at all, because you're more centered toward health, as I said, in women, but still it played a role, and it kind of laid the groundwork, for future. It was an important, step. You ended up teaching for several years.
Yes, I did. Yeah, because it's what do you do with the degree in English lit, right? So it's like, so people say, "You're going to go into teaching?" I'd say, "Hell no, no way." And end of the last semester of year 3, kind of like, oh, I guess I better have a planned match,
Yeah.
And I entered the diploma in teacher training at Bishops, the 1-year program.
Okay, and at that point, you did teach for several years.
I did. And at the time, I thought teaching with the nursing would be a nice combination. So I taught for about 4 years in the Eastern Townships at high school. I taught everything from soup to nuts and English literature. And then I went to Montreal. I went to Montreal, well, because actually my boyfriend was in Montreal at the time. So I thought, okay, I'm going to go to Montreal, and I wanted to do something different. It was time to leave, you know.
Just going back, I think it was a teacher, was it in high school, that happened to mention, I don't know what he saw in you, but he happened to mention that India was, I don't know, it would draw you or something.
Yeah. One of the reasons why I chose a degree in English literature is because I did love my English literature courses in high school, and I had a wonderful high school teacher, Wally Wilson, who had lived and traveled in many parts of the world teaching, including India. And when I was getting the desire to want to be abroad, so thinking teaching and nursing, I could go abroad because there was this pull to see the world, he had said to me, you, my dear, want to go to India.
To India.
And you planted that seed.
And you ended up going to yoga retreats.
I did. That was my to India.
That's which I found was incredible. I mean, I went to a retreat once in Costa Rica. That's nice here in the area of Quebec. But in India, it must have a certain impact. You're in this ambiance. How did that impact your life?
Well, in 2004, so it was a long time before I actually got to India. So in 2004, I did a program through Isha Yoga Foundation, and that's where I met Sadhguru Jaggi Vasudev. And his ashram is in India.
You actually met him?
Yes, he's.
Oh my gosh!
I was very, very lucky. That was the early days before things got really big with Isha Foundation, and so he was my teacher in all these classes.
Oh my heavens!
And so in 2005, in March, there's this major silence retreat called Samyama, and myself and two other friends from Montreal went, and it was a silence program at his ashram, which is magnificent. And it was something else to travel that far and then to be in silence for 7 days. And yeah. And
no, I know that it impacted you.
You
continued to do your studies. You went to McGill University, and everything, it just seems as though life kind of placed things at the precise time that it was needed. You took a class, I don't know which class it was, but you met loads of incredible women.
I did.
That impacted you. And since your interest is women, you learned so much from them.
Yes. Well, first of all, I had a wonderful thesis advisor, Dr. Claudia Mitchell, and then other professors that I worked with, Lynn Butler-Kisber and Ann Beer. And so their courses were on gender and identity and self-study. And at the same time, I met other women who were also working on their MAs or their PhDs in this area of curriculum instruction with an emphasis on gender and identity and culture. And, there was Samia, who was Palestinian. There was Anastasia, who was, Greek-Canadian. There was Hurig and Hermig, who were Armenian, born in Lebanon. So from all over, particularly the Mediterranean.
Okay.
And so there was this sisterhood that was forming as we were all doing our graduate studies in the Faculty of Education at McGill. And it was a sisterhood. I've been very lucky to find myself in sisterhoods.
And we'll continue with that, but everything led eventually to this incredible experience of you being able to teach in Bahrain.
Yes.
I mean, you didn't want teaching, but this experience to be able to go there, and I think you spent about 8 years.
I did, yeah.
Tell us about that and how this too helped produce the woman you are today.
Yes.
And you've often said you're a woman of the world.
Yeah.
Of the community of the world.
Yes.
So in Bahrain.
In Bahrain, well, it does start with those Mediterranean divas, particularly Anastasia and Samia, who were the first to go off to the Middle East. And of course, being Middle Eastern myself, my mother's family came from Syria and Lebanon, so I'm half Middle Eastern. There was always the pull. And it's like, okay, so Samia and Anastasia paved the way. And so after a couple of years, I decided I'm getting on a plane and I'm going.
You're headed. Okay.
I'm headed. And I indeed, when I was there for a few weeks with them, I went to interviews and a university hired me. And that was in 2007, and I left. And it was incredible being in Bahrain, because I distinctly remember one day driving home from work, had been for coffee with friends, had gotten my groceries, just like an ordinary anywhere day, and I realized I'm at home. I'm home here in this desert island, because Bahrain's an island, with the palm trees and the mosques with the turrets. Instead of seeing crosses and crucifixes in churches, it was turrets, and I loved the heat, and I realized it was where I became my own woman.
Oh my gosh. Because
as much as our friends and our families love us and have wonderful intentions for us, when there's that distance and we can actually kind of feel our worth, our wings, our worth. Exactly. And I was able to spread my wings and be with a wonderful community of expats and locals. It was wonderful.
You continued on because you're always learning new things. You became a life coach.
Yes.
Which is very important. I want you to comment, yes, on that, but we want to also make sure that we have time because during the pandemic, the pandemic had an effect on everybody.
Yeah.
And for you, where you were able to just kind of focus, etc., but lots of ideas came out on how Johanna could impact the community and women.
Yes. So during the pandemic, 2020, when everything shut down, I'd returned to Thetford at that point. And it's like, so what would I like to do now? How do I want to reinvent myself? And I've got nursing, and I've got teaching, and I've got my coaching, my CTI coaching, and a leadership program. And then I was doing some work with other women online, because the world was online.
Everything was online.
Everything was online. So again, I found myself in some wonderful sisterhoods of other women coaches and healers in this world online. And it's like, I was also going through menopause, perimenopause. So it's like, there's all this stuff. It's quite turbulent. And it's like, what's going on with my body and my health? And I knew that I wasn't alone. So I decided then to bring those pieces together of my passion of women's health and our well-being and coaching and teaching and group facilitation. So I started developing some online programs. One of them is like a languid lunch. The idea
and you do these online or Facebook?
I do those online. Okay. So I invite women, and I have a small group of women who we meet once a month now. For a languid lunch, being nice and long and lazy, where we talk about all things perimenopause to menopause to postmenopause. And then I did an 8-week inspired program. So from inhibition to great inspiration.
This is a course that you followed?
It's a course that I also developed as a result of a lot of my training and doing some work in leadership, following other leadership programs.
Everything's coming
together. And so it was a way to start, spreading my wings as an entrepreneur, as a coach, interested in women's health and well-being, particularly our menopausal health and well-being. And so now I want to shift to, not just online, but within the community.
And it must have been, I know that you started slowly,
yes,
but women must have been very happy to be able to express themselves.
Yes.
And all, because even if we're in 2023, it's not a subject that,
no,
that you just put out there.
And
you're kind of in ignorance, but every woman goes through it.
Every woman goes through it. Thanks to my own curiosity and nursing background and always been involved in health, I was exploring and trying to understand more. And when I would gather women together, it was kind of like there was a sense of, they would go, oh my God, I'm not alone. I'm not crazy. I'm not dying. There's, this is normal, or, I don't have to be so freaked out about it. And that there are solutions and there are answers. And so it's like I really want to change our story, our narrative about how we live from perimenopause to postmenopause, because it's a journey.
A natural journey.
It's very natural. It's part of our natural biological aging, and you don't have to suffer through it. Like there are solutions. There are things we can do, and just opening up the conversation for women is extremely powerful.
And now, so you move on. You were online.
Yes.
And now, what are the next steps, et cetera, that you go into, your passions that you want to?
Yes. So currently, I want to bring women together in person here in Thetford, en anglais, en français, to have those, in a way, those language lunches, those conversations to help support women, to get them quality information, and to help them make choices to how do they want to lead their own lives. When I did leadership, I realized it's not a position, it's not authority. It's what is the impact we want to have in our own lives and in the world around us. And our midlife menopausal health and well-being is key to how we want to lead our lives. So it's about bringing women together to have those conversations, to advocate for themselves, to feel empowered. And the big dream is a woman's health center in the region.
Because, we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
But that's it. When women arrive at that stage in their lives, it's also at the same time that quite often they've climbed the ladder and they're getting to the top of their professional careers.
Exactly.
Which brings more stress, more responsibility, etc.
Exactly. Because there's lots of things happening in a woman's life. It might be change. Children maybe have left the house, aging or sick parents. Maybe relationships are coming to an end. Maybe they're changing. And it's that sense of what do I and who do I want to be? And within our professional lives, many women feel that, with what they're experiencing because of hormonal changes, be they hot flashes, brain fog, heavy bleeding, and a whole host of other experiences that women have, might not actually continue their leadership. They might retire earlier than they wanted to. They might move laterally. So it's a huge impact on our lives.
And you're saying that we only have a few minutes left. You're saying that you would also like to be able to have resources. That's where you're trying to point this in, professional resources within the community.
Yes. And a variety of resources. So certainly, certainly gynecologists or family doctor who are really well-versed and well-trained in menopause and women's midlife health, but also other forms of healthcare. Doctors of naturopathy, Ayurvedic doctors, also nurse practitioners, coaches, hello, a variety of healthcare professionals that it's a holistic approach to our health and not just siloed. Right? And it's not just symptom-based. It's looking at a health model, a holistic health model.
And do you realize that how everything, all the different steps in your life are coming together, whether it's in teaching, whether it's in health, coaching, even back women's rights, etc. Everything is coming. Everything is coming together. I just find it, I find it very fascinating. And what you also underlined was that French and English.
Absolutely.
Because it's the community at large.
Yes. Also, group collective and also individual coaching. I also am adding a lovely piece called Human Design to my...
Human Design. Yes. Explain that briefly.
Oh, Human Design is a fascinating area of self-discovery. It's another way to better understand ourselves and get a clear picture of who we are, what our challenges are, what our gifts are, and to be more in alignment with who we really are. and not trying to, so often our suffering is because we try to fit ourselves into different pegs.
Yeah.
And we're not in alignment with who we are and what our design is. It's quite esoteric, and it's also very, very practical.
And people who are listening, they say, oh my gosh, I find this interesting.
Yes.
Do you mind if they contact you?
Absolutely.
They can write to you in
they
private.
Can write to me in private, yeah.
Okay, on Facebook.
Yes, yeah. And also to, if we can, I can also give my email address to people to contact me.
We'll have it put up. Thank you very, very much. You know, be your own woman.
Absolutely.
You are your own woman. I know that your mom must be very, very proud of you. And you said that your parents were magnets. You too have that magnet personality.
Thank you so much. This is lovely. Thank you.
Et merci à vous autres. Ceci termine notre rencontre. J'espère que vous avez pratiqué. Puis comme je dis, si vous suivez des cours d'anglais, mais c'était un excellent moment pour pratiquer la compréhension auditive. Je serai de retour la semaine prochaine avec une autre rencontre en français. Bonne semaine.